who were very, very much involved 20-odd years ago, resurrecting Camilla.
Is the fairy tale cracking? Elton John has reportedly revealed something about Camilla that could stir old royal wounds. Their history runs deeper than we thought, and what he's now saying is anything but polite. You won't want to miss this. Hit that subscribe button for more insider drama and shocking truths. They laughed, they danced, and they supported causes together. But what made the friendship between Elton John and Princess Diana truly unforgettable was the authenticity behind it. It wasn't about titles or fame. It was about two people who understood each other in a way few others did. Their friendship started in the early 1980s. At one royal event, a grand ball at Windsor Castle, Diana and Elton danced the Charleston together, laughing like old friends. Elton would later describe her as someone who could light up a room just by walking in. She was approachable, quick-witted, and could talk to anyone without a hint of awkwardness. Diana wasn't just kind in public. Behind the scenes, she offered genuine help, especially when Elton launched his AIDS Foundation. Back then, support for such causes wasn't as common among high-profile figures. But Diana stood by him, attending events, raising awareness, and lending her voice to something that mattered. It wasn't for show, it was personal. Their connection wasn't without its challenges. Just months before Diana's passing, the two reportedly had a falling out. It was over a photo book fundraiser connected to a mutual friend, a book Diana had initially agreed to support but later withdrew from. Her concern? That the content might not sit well with others in the royal family. Tickets had already been sold, and Elton felt stuck. The misunderstanding drove a brief wedge between them. But life has a way of putting things in perspective. When that same friend unexpectedly passed away shortly after, Diana was the first to call Elton. She apologized, and the two made peace. That reunion, brief as it was, turned out to be their last time together. From that point forward, Elton carried Diana's memory with him. It wasn't just about grief. It was about honoring the kind of person she was. Whether through his music, his charity work, or his public appearances, Elton made sure Diana's light kept shining. And here's where things get even more complicated. Because this deep connection to Diana would soon put him on a collision course with another member of the royal family, Camilla. What happened next? Why did Elton's loyalty to Diana create a ripple effect across royal events for years to come? Keep watching. The story only gets more tangled from here. When Prince Charles married Camilla Parker Bowles in April 2005, the royal family expected familiar faces to attend: dignitaries, close friends, public figures. But one seat remained noticeably empty. That seat belonged to Sir Elton John. On paper, the reason was simple. He had a charity performance in Los Angeles scheduled for the same day. But for many who knew the history, the timing felt too convenient. After all, this wasn't just any wedding. It was the official union of Charles and the woman many still blamed for Princess Diana's heartache. Elton's absence spoke volumes, even without a public statement. He didn't need to say anything. His decision echoed what millions were feeling. The memory of Diana was still fresh, and not everyone was ready to embrace Camilla's new role in the royal family. For those who had followed the ups and downs of Diana's life, Camilla's presence was a sore spot. The public hadn't forgotten the headlines, the whispers, and the emotional interviews. Diana herself had once said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage." That quote lingered for years, shaping how people saw Charles and Camilla's relationship. So when Elton chose not to attend the wedding, it felt like he was drawing a line, a quiet, personal statement of loyalty, not to tradition or titles, but to someone who had once danced beside him and stood by his causes. It's worth noting that Elton didn't speak negatively about the couple. He didn't call for protests or give interviews denouncing the marriage. He simply chose to be somewhere else. But that absence, that silence, was louder than words. Royal historian Robert Lacey later commented that Camilla's road to acceptance was long and difficult. In 2005, the public still had mixed feelings. Many hadn't moved on. Elton's absence, whether intentional or not, mirrored that hesitation. The wedding was a major moment for Charles and Camilla, a step forward in their journey together. But for some, it also reopened wounds that hadn't fully healed. And for Elton, being part of that day may have felt like rewriting the past, a past he wasn't willing to forget. So he chose music instead. A stage in Los Angeles over a chapel in Windsor. A choice that, whether planned or not, kept the memory of Diana alive just a little longer. But what really fueled this distance between Elton and Camilla? Was it only about Diana? Or was there something more personal beneath the surface? That's the question we'll explore next. And it might surprise you. If you look at the timeline of events, Elton John's absence from the royal wedding wasn't an isolated decision. It felt more like the continuation of something deeper, a quiet tension that had reportedly been building between him and Camilla for years. To understand this, you have to look at how the public viewed Camilla during Princess Diana's lifetime. For many, Camilla symbolized the strain, confusion, and heartbreak surrounding Diana and Charles's marriage. The media labeled her with unflattering nicknames. One in particular, Rottweiler, stuck around longer than anyone expected. And even though it was said in jest by Diana herself, the name painted a picture the public didn't easily forget. At the same time, Elton had become one of Diana's most visible supporters. He didn't just write songs. He showed up when it mattered. He stood by her work with AIDS charities, lent his voice to her causes, and remained fiercely loyal even after their brief fallout. So when Charles and Camilla's relationship became public, it naturally put Elton in a difficult position. Imagine being in his shoes. You've spent years building a connection with someone you genuinely admired, someone who trusted you. Then suddenly, the person she was most hurt by is being celebrated in a new light. It's not just awkward, it's emotional. Some royal watchers believe that Elton never truly forgave Camilla for what Diana endured. Whether or not that's true, one thing is clear. There's no record of warm public interactions between the two. No joint appearances, no visible friendship, just polite distance. And then there's the gossip, the kind that always floats around circles of fame and royalty. Some sources close to Elton have hinted over the years that Camilla's rise within the royal family was something he struggled to accept. It wasn't about jealousy or rivalry, it was about legacy, Diana's legacy. Even after Camilla was officially named Queen Consort, there were still murmurs. Did Elton ever send congratulations? Did he ever make peace with her new role? If he did, he never said so publicly. And that silence, again, said a lot. There's also the question of tone. Elton has always been outspoken when he cares deeply about something, but on Camilla, he's remained unusually reserved. Some say that's out of respect. Others believe it's because he doesn't want to open old wounds. And yet, behind the scenes, some believe that a personal falling out may have happened, long before the wedding, long before the tabloids. A moment that may have shaped everything that followed. And that moment might have roots far deeper than anyone expected. Because as strange as it sounds, and as unbelievable as it may be, rumors began to circulate that Elton and Camilla might have known each other, well before the world cared who either of them were. Could that be true? Could their tension have started not during the royal scandal, but decades earlier? What came next left fans stunned. And if the rumor is real, it changes everything. This part of the story reads almost like fiction, but it's one of the most talked about rumors that's ever connected Elton John and Camilla. A claim so unexpected that even longtime fans did a double take. It all traces back to an alleged interview Elton gave to a tabloid outlet. In it, he reportedly revealed that Camilla Parker Bowles, then known as Camilla Shand, was his first serious love interest. Yes, that Camilla. According to the report, the year was 1965. Elton, still going by his birth name Reginald Dwight, was just 18 years old and still figuring out who he was, not just as a musician, but as a person. He was playing at a small venue called the Queen's Head in a quiet town, trying to break into the music world one piano set at a time. That's where he claimed to have met Camilla. They allegedly struck up a conversation after his performance, shared some laughs, and started seeing each other. Elton was drawn to her energy, strong, confident, and unapologetically herself. She was everything he admired, sharp, grounded, and easy to talk to, someone who made him feel seen. In the supposed interview, Elton described her as his first real emotional connection. He said, "She was in many ways everything I ever looked for in a partner." And perhaps the most surprising part, he claimed she was the first person he was ever truly close to in that way. But according to him, her family didn't approve. Their relationship, if it ever truly happened, was short-lived, ending after just a couple of months. Camilla moved on, and so did Elton. But as the story goes, he never forgot her. Now let's pause here. There's no official confirmation from either Elton or Camilla about this. It's a story that exists more in rumor than fact. And that's important to note. Still, the mere possibility has stirred up endless speculation. Why? Because if true, it adds an entirely new layer to the supposed tension between them. Imagine reconnecting with someone decades later, not as old flames, but on opposite ends of a royal divide. One, a global music icon. the other now married to a future king. If there really had been a personal history, it could explain so much. The distance, the awkward silences, even the subtle digs. It might not have been just about Diana. It might have been something far more personal. And while Elton never directly addressed the rumor again, he never denied it either. That's left royal watchers and fans wondering, was this just a dramatic exaggeration or a memory too delicate to revisit? It's also worth noting that around the same time, in the late 60s, Elton had other significant relationships. He became engaged to a woman named Linda Woodrow, and they were nearly married. But he abruptly ended the engagement, a story that later inspired his song, "Someone Saved My Life Tonight." Was Camilla part of the emotional confusion of that period? No one knows for sure. But the pieces do seem to form an intriguing puzzle. And perhaps what matters more than the truth of the rumor is the way it adds emotional weight to Elton's story. A young man, unsure of who he was, drawn to a woman who seemed to have her life figured out, only to later watch her become one of the most controversial figures in British royal history. True or not, it's a twist that fans can't stop talking about. And it raises a haunting question. If Camilla had made a different choice back then, would any of this have turned out differently? Even for someone who's performed on stages across the globe, this moment was unlike any other for Elton John. It was 1997 and the world had been shaken. The loss of Princess Diana sent shockwaves across generations. People stood in silence, wept openly, and lined the streets of London. But inside Westminster Abbey, one voice managed to capture what millions were feeling: Elton's. That day, he sat at a grand piano and performed a reimagined version of his classic Candle in the Wind. The original song, written for Marilyn Monroe, was transformed into a tribute to Diana, a friend, a humanitarian, and someone he loved dearly. The lyrics were rewritten by Bernie Taupin, Elton's longtime collaborator. Together, they turned the song into something raw and heartfelt. "Goodbye, England's Rose," he sang, as the world listened in silence. His voice was steady, but the emotion was impossible to hide. This wasn't just a tribute, it was a farewell, one filled with gratitude, pain, and unshakable loyalty. Prince Harry would later describe the moment in his memoir. He remembered Elton walking slowly to the piano and remembered how the music made the room feel heavier. He couldn't recall every note, but he never forgot the feeling. That song, that moment, left a permanent mark. Millions around the world watched that performance. For many, it was the most powerful moment of the entire service. And what made it even more remarkable was that Elton did it not as a superstar, but as a friend. After the service, Candle in the Wind 1997 went on to become the best-selling single in chart history. But Elton rarely performed it again. He said it felt too personal, too painful, a moment meant for that one day alone. The performance also deepened the connection between Elton and Diana's family. It wasn't just that he honored her publicly, it was that he did it with sincerity, no spectacle, just music and love. From that point on, he stayed close to her sons, supporting them quietly but firmly. And for those who still questioned his absence at Charles and Camilla's wedding years later, this moment reminded them why. His heart never left Diana's corner. But Elton's role in their lives didn't end there. As the next generation of royals began to face their own struggles, Elton once again stepped forward, loyal as ever. Elton John's connection to Princess Diana didn't end with her funeral. It extended into the lives of her children, especially Prince Harry. Over the years, Elton has proven to be more than a family friend. He's become a protector, a mentor, and in many ways, a steady figure in the background. His bond with Harry only grew stronger, especially during times when the younger prince found himself at odds with public opinion. One of the most notable moments came in 2019. Harry and Meghan, who had recently welcomed baby Archie, were criticized in the press for flying to Elton's home in Nice on a private jet. The media backlash was swift and harsh. Accusations of hypocrisy and privilege filled headlines. But Elton wasn't about to stay silent. He immediately took to social media, then known as Twitter, and defended the couple. In his post, Elton clarified that he had provided the plane, ensured the trip was carbon neutral, and more importantly, that he felt responsible for protecting Harry and his family. "Harry's mother, Diana, was one of my dearest friends," he wrote. "I feel a profound sense of obligation to protect Harry and his family from the media intrusion that contributed to her untimely departure." That statement struck a chord with the public. For Elton, this wasn't just about headlines. It was personal. He had seen what the spotlight could do. He had watched Diana struggle with it, and he wasn't going to let history repeat itself without standing up. But Elton's support didn't stop there. According to royal biographer Tina Brown, Elton may have played a behind-the-scenes role in helping Harry and Meghan secure their Netflix deal after stepping back from royal duties. The $100 million contract made headlines, and sources say it all started with a connection: Elton's husband, David Furnish. Furnish reportedly introduced Meghan to contacts at Netflix. The discussions began with an idea for an animated series called Pearl, with Meghan as creator and Furnish as producer. Though the project was eventually canceled, the connection helped lay the groundwork for what came next: a new media path for the Sussexes. Beyond business, Elton's support has remained steady and heartfelt. At his farewell concert in 2023, Harry and Meghan sent a special video message thanking him for his decades of friendship, support, and kindness. Their message was brief, but meaningful, a sign that the bond he had with Diana had truly carried on to her children. In a world where alliances constantly shift, Elton has been consistent. When others turned away, he stayed close. When things got complicated, he chose kindness. And as the royal family continues to navigate challenges, both public and private, Elton remains a quiet yet powerful figure in their story, one that never stops standing in Diana's corner. It may have sounded like a joke, but fans couldn't help noticing the timing and the tone. Years after skipping Charles and Camilla's royal wedding, Elton John was reflecting on his own marriage to David Furnish in an interview with Variety. It was a heartfelt look back at a special day, but then came the zinger. "We did it at the same place as Charles and Camilla," he said. "We had a bigger crowd." That one sentence set off a wave of reactions. Was it just Elton being cheeky, or was there a little dig buried in the humor? Let's break it down. Elton and David married at Windsor's Guildhall in December 2014, the exact same venue where Charles and Camilla tied the knot 9 years earlier. While Elton was clearly proud of the event, the way he framed the comparison felt intentional. The timing of the comment also mattered. It came during a period when Elton had already made his distance from Camilla pretty clear. He hadn't shown up for the royal wedding, he hadn't offered public congratulations, and now with this comment, he seemed to be saying, "We had something better." Fans were divided. Some loved the shade, others saw it as harmless fun, but many agreed on one thing: Elton never says things like that by accident. He's known for his quick wit, but also for his loyalty, and that loyalty often comes through in the smallest moments, even in a line disguised as a joke. What made the comment sting, at least for some royal watchers, was that it wasn't just about numbers or guest lists. It felt like Elton reclaiming a little space, reminding the world that his values hadn't changed, that Diana's memory still shaped how he saw the royal landscape. Even in moments of celebration, Elton finds ways to express his truths, and this little wedding anecdote was no exception. Because when Elton speaks, whether through song, silence, or sarcasm, people listen. And just like that, the tension between him and Camilla had a fresh headline. Whether he's on stage at a packed stadium or at home near Windsor Castle, one thing is certain: Elton John isn't just a musician. He's a cultural icon whose influence reaches far beyond music. From the very start, Elton was different. His style, his sound, his energy, they broke through the traditional mold of British entertainers. He wasn't afraid to be bold, and that boldness earned him respect not just from fans, but from royalty. Over the decades, Elton has racked up a staggering list of awards and honors. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 1998 for his service to music and charity. Later, in 2020, he was appointed to the Order of the Companions of Honor, a distinction given to only a select few. But the recognition doesn't stop there. He's won multiple Grammy Awards, an Academy Award for Can You Feel the Love Tonight, and a Tony Award for his Broadway work. In fact, in 2024, Elton joined the elite group of artists known as EGOT winners, those who have won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony, a rare feat and a clear sign of just how far his talent reaches. Beyond performance, his work with lyricist Bernie Taupin has become the blueprint for legendary songwriting partnerships. From Rocket Man to Your Song to I'm Still Standing, their catalog defines entire eras of music. And while many artists fade with time, Elton just kept evolving. His farewell tour, Farewell Yellow Brick Road, became one of the highest-grossing tours in history. Even in his final shows, he wasn't slowing down. He played with the same passion, the same fire that lit up the 1970s. But what truly cements Elton's legacy isn't just the awards or the sales, it's his heart. His charity work, especially through the Elton John AIDS Foundation, has raised hundreds of millions globally. His commitment to making a difference is as strong as his commitment to music. And in all of this, the concerts, the honors, the activism, there's always been a thread of loyalty. Loyalty to his roots, loyalty to his beliefs, and most notably, loyalty to people who mattered, like Princess Diana and her sons. He's dined with queens, danced with princesses, and played for presidents. But at his core, Elton remains someone who stood by what he believed in, even when it wasn't convenient or popular. And that's what makes him unforgettable. As we approach the final part of the story, one question lingers. With everything Elton has achieved, why do his choices about Camilla still make headlines? Let's bring it all together. Maybe it's because Elton has never been one to shy away from the truth. When he cares about someone, he shows it. Not through headlines or gossip, but through action. His loyalty to Princess Diana was visible in every quiet decision he made, from skipping a royal wedding to defending her sons when the world seemed too loud. And maybe that's what makes the distance between him and Camilla so fascinating. He never publicly attacked her. He didn't go on talk shows to air out personal history. But through what he chose to say and what he chose not to, a story took shape. A story of history, emotion, and maybe even a little heartbreak. If the rumors about their early connection are true, that only adds another twist to the narrative. What starts as young admiration can, over time, become something very different, especially when layered with public pressure, shifting roles, and national expectations. What we do know is that Elton's choices have always followed one clear path: authenticity. Whether performing Candle in the Wind at Westminster Abbey or defending Prince Harry against the media storm, he's never forgotten the people who mattered most to him. And through it all, his quiet resistance, whether it's skipping a ceremony or making a tongue-in-cheek comment, reminds us that not all statements are made through speeches. Sometimes the absence says more than being present ever could. So where do they stand today? We don't know, and maybe we're not meant to. Because some stories, especially the ones with personal roots, don't need full explanations. They just linger, in a single lyric, in a shared memory, in a seat left empty. But now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Elton's choices were shaped more by personal history or by his loyalty to Diana? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're reading everyone. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you're subscribed. Because in the world of royalty and fame, the truth is rarely simple. And the next chapter is always just one secret away.